So first I want to thank you all for inviting me here. I'm the only non-TC person here. I think that's by design. So I'm going to speak truth to power. That's kind of what I do. And I'm not going to ramble. I had some prepared remarks, but after hearing some of the introductions and some of the things tonight, I'm going to scrap all that. I'm just going to speak. Hopefully it resonates with some people. Here we go. So I've been involved in police killing cases for a long time. I've been involved in killing for a long time. One of my first major cases was suing the Ku Klux Klan, who shot down 5 African Americans in Tennessee in the 80s. I represent 3 families right now, whose loved ones were killed by the police. And each of those cases are identical. They involved 3 individuals. One lived on Manhattan Avenue, a few blocks from here. His name was Muhammad Ba. I represent 2 individuals in Westchester, families. One's name is Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., Sr. And they were all killed in identical situations. Their loved ones, or an alert went off. They were in their homes, not bothering anyone. They were in an emotional crisis. 2 had diagnoses of paranoid schizophrenia, and the police showed up on their doors, banged on their doors, yelled at them, cursed at them, broke their doors down, tasered, beanbagged, shot, and killed them. Each one. The one in Westchester, one of the ones in Westchester, in White Plains, most of the incident was captured on video. You see the man and audio. And one of the officers said to him, and you could hear it, "I don't give a fuck, nigger, open the door." And they shot and killed him. No one was indicted in any of those cases. None, not a one. So I wondered, why this hoopla? Why this furor? Why all of a sudden are people in arms? They weren't up in arms when these emotionally distressed folks were killed. Why now? What is it about Garner? Ferguson's bad enough, but Garner? So I asked myself that question. What is it about that case that's got folks up in the streets and up in arms? It's the video. It's the video. Someone said, one of these police experts said, when you look at police work, it looks pretty awful. And most of us don't get a chance to see that. And that's the reality. It's the video. If they can't indict that cop, then all of our lives are at risk. All of us. Yes, black lives matter, but I want to tell you, it ain't just black folks they kill in these situations. If you're emotionally distressed, if you're in some sort of a crisis and you're in the street and the police show up and you're there, they're going to kill you. That's what happened. It happened to a young man, a young Jewish man in Brooklyn. They killed him because he was emotionally distressed. Just yesterday, 2 days ago, in a yeshiva in Brooklyn, and this man showed up with a knife and he hurt somebody, and sure, that was a horrible thing. They killed him. They killed him because the only tool they give the police in this country, guns. And if you give a man a gun, he's going to use it. If you give a man a hammer or a woman a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And that's what happens. So I said just the other day, if we really want to deal with this issue from a policing perspective, we have to give our officers other tools than just deadly weapons. Because if that's all they have, they will use them and they will kill you. Now, sure, that conversation that our good mayor talked about having with his son, I had that with my son too. If you don't have that with your son, and your daughters are at risk too, but let's be frank, black males are at risk because there's a fear of the black male. There isn't as much of a fear of the black woman, but there certainly is a fear of the black male. We're deemed dangerous. We're perceived as criminals. That's the default position when you're in the street. And I had to tell him, if a cop shows up, put your hands up. I was once almost killed by an officer. I wasn't dressed like this. I was dressed in a Rasta Tom, my mother's Jamaican, and I'm in my bubble jacket, shopping at a store in Queens, and I saw the unmarked police officer roaming around in the parking lot. You could see them in their cars. You know, if you're from my neighborhood, you learn to notice the cops because they're not there to help you. And you know that growing up. When I lived in Westchester, my relationship with the police force was very different. It's like, hello, Officer Joe. I mean, I knew the police chief. We were like on a first name basis. Okay, let me get back to my story. Because again, I only have 15 minutes. So I'm in the store, minding my business. Police officer, I can see this guy as it was yesterday. He's 6'3", blonde, blue-eyed, black leather jacket, whips around the corner, flashes a badge at me and says, "You got any papers on that car?" So I'm like, I'm taking the bar exam at the time. So I'm talking to this guy, and I made the mistake, admittedly a mistake, because I know who I am. He doesn't know who I am. I put my hand in my jacket pocket. I saw your reaction. Oh, my God. The gun comes out, and I'm looking down the barrel of this gun. And let me tell you, I'm not sure how many of y'all have ever looked down the barrel of a gun when it's pointed at you. That hole is huge. It fills the universe. And he said, "Move, and and I hate to use profanity, but here we are, we're all adults. Move, and I'll blow your motherfucking brains out." Needless to say, I did not move. So he frisked my pocket, sees there's no gun in there, says, "Take your hand out your pocket." So at that moment, I said to myself, and now I'm thinking rationally, I want people around here, because he's still got the gun on me, to see that something unusual is happening. So I put my hands on my head, and I assumed the prisoner of war position. Cop says, because that's what I am at this moment. I'm a prisoner of war, and I want these folks to see this man was shot with his hands on his head. Not that it makes a difference these days, as you might know. So the cop said, "Take your hands off your head." I said to him, "Put your gun away." I take my hands down. Take your hands off your head. Put your gun away. I'll take my hands down. So we had this little dialogue back and forth. And then eventually, he puts his gun away. I take my hands down. And then he asked me, "Do you have any identification?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do." I pull out my ID. Now, I just happen to have my Harvard Law School ID with me. So once he sees that, the conversation changes. Because now I'm no longer just some N on the street. I may be somebody with power that he's got to worry about. And he's very respectful, very. But from that moment on to this very day, everything in my life has been a gift. Because I should have died that day. I should have. I could have. So this is all a dream. I shouldn't even be here having this conversation with you. But I'm grateful that that officer was not so racist and so crazy and so hateful that he pulled that trigger, because he could have. And that would have been it. So here we are, 21st century. And I can sense from Chris's introduction that there are a lot of issues here at the school. And why shouldn't there be? You're here in America. Where do you think you are? You know, this is part of the United States. I don't know of a single institution where race, class, gender, sexual orientation are not issues. I don't know of a single one. I don't know of any. If you do, let me know afterwards. I'd be happy to go there. But here's my view of America. This is an experiment. This whole place is an experiment. Why do I say that? The United States is the only country where people from all over the world who aren't indigenous to this place, the only indigenous people from this place have been slaughtered or marginalized. That's what happened to them. So no one's indigenous except the Native Americans. And they're not, New York City, this place was once a home of Native Americans. You don't see any around here. We slaughtered them. We got rid of them through various means. So this is an experiment in democracy. Think about this for a moment. 1619, Europeans come over, first English. What happens? They bring indentured servants over. In 1619, the first Africans walked on these shores in Jamestown, Virginia. Now, I got 15 minutes. I can't give you the whole history of the world. And I always ask the question, If you were to ask that African who's coming off that boat in chains and say to him, one day, one of your descendants is going to be the president of the United States, that African would look at you like you were insane. And in fact, one of those first Africans, the very first African to ever be held in chains as a slave in the United States, his name was Punch, John Punch. Guess who his direct descendant is? Barack Obama, through his mother. Oh yes, race is a very complicated construct. Oh, look it up on Ancestry.com. That man was directly related through Barack's mother. So she's not pure white. Who is? So now to the right here, right now. Fast forward. Where do we go from here? King said it best, 1968. He's getting ready to die. Last thing he wrote. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? That's the question. Now, does it surprise me that cops are still killing my people? No, not at all. The question is, this is a moment. What should we do with this moment? This is an issue we've been working with for decades, centuries. It didn't just start with Eric Garner, but maybe it will end with Eric Garner if we take up the cudgels. And I don't mean just getting up in the street, demonstrating. That's critical. Frederick Douglass said it, power concedes nothing without a demand. And the presence of people of all colors, of all ages, through the social media, that sends a powerful message. The Russians are already using it against the Americans. Really? You Americans said what a great country you have? What are you doing to the Eric Garners? That's how we got any civil rights, because it was an embarrassment to the United States to have those images projected to the world as we pretended to be the home of the free and the brave. I love that rewriting of the Declaration of that pledge. I haven't said that pledge in about 40 years, because it ain't real. It's just not a real Pledge of Allegiance. I don't pledge allegiance to a flag. That's a symbol. I pledge allegiance to the Bill of Rights that protects me. That's what I'm allegiance to. So where do we go from here? 2 books I want to recommend to you. 1, if you really want to make a movement, if you really want to have social change, you got to read. There was this great movie I saw the other day, Long Walk to Freedom. And in the movie, you see a scene where Mandela has been in prison for 20 years, and these young men are coming into prison from the Soweto, rebellions. And they look at him like, what do you have to tell us? And he says, I can teach you things, and you can learn, and I can learn from you. So it's an exchange. So that's what I'm doing tonight. I'm exchanging. I'm one of those graybeards. First, Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals. Read that book if you really want to organize. 2, Sun Tzu, Art of War. I don't mean shooting people, but you are in a struggle. And if you're in a struggle, you need to figure out how other folks have viewed that struggle. Mahatma Gandhi took down the British Empire in India and never engaged in one single act of violence. Martin Luther King did the same thing here. He changed at least the words, the signs. The country didn't change, the essence of it didn't change, but he pushed it. So my thinking is very simple. We need to figure out, what are our demands? What do we want to achieve? You're not going to achieve everything at one time, but you've got people mobilized. And what Alinsky says is, when people are mobilized, you find an issue that they can agree on, and you focus on that issue and make a demand. Here's a demand. The New York State Attorney General has just sent a letter to the governor, which is probably going to be ignored by the governor, asking for the authority, and he has the authority to do this, to make him a special prosecutor in any police killing case in New York City. That's a demand he has made. Where are we? So my thinking is, if that's a demand that we think is a viable thing, we need to put ourselves behind it. And the governor can sign that with a stroke of a pen. That's all it requires. So what should we be doing? Should we be marching on Macy's and Apple? No, march on the governor. march on the mayor, engage in legitimate acts of civil disobedience. By that, and that's what we did in the 60s. It was a construct. We didn't just wander off and cross bridges. We were organized, we planned, and we executed. King had a three-pronged approach. Read his letter from a Birmingham jail. 1, first, learn the issue. 2nd, organize around the issue. 3, take direct action. Lenin said, spontaneity has its limits. And what we're seeing now is spontaneity. And it's a great thing, but it has its limits. The system depends on your silence and apathy. And the system also recognizes that the demonstrators will soon move on and go away. They know that. They're just waiting for the wave to move on. And unless you organize and have demands and mobilize, then there'll be another Eric Garner, and we'll be doing the same thing again. This is an opportunity. Seize the time. Seize the moment. Make the change that you want to see, and maybe one day you won't have to have the same conversation I had with my son. Thank you.